Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. We're here today to talk about Nacelle and their amazing biker mics from Mars property. Maybe we'll mention a couple other things as well. Hope you're picking up the comic from Oni. I have one of the creative minds behind Nacelle joining me today. It's Brian Volk-Weiss, who you may know from things like your favorite toys and your favorite properties and all that kind of nostalgia stuff. So, Brian, thanks so much for taking the time to join me today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we didn't get a chance to talk at San Diego. So again, thanks for taking the time today to talk about.
I'm still here. I'm still here, Jace. I'm waiting around for you.
Well, let's start there. Before we dive into biker mice from Mars specifically, how was San Diego? I mean, you guys had several panels, you had several things that you had going on and what have you. So how was it for Nacelle overall?
It's funny. For something that really was a last minute decision that admittedly came with quite the price tag. Holy moly. We used to always basically get a shelf with Diamond, and we never built a booth before.
Right.
And then obviously, very unfortunately, when Diamond went bankrupt, we at the very last minute were presented with an opportunity to do the booth. And as I had previously mentioned, a bonkers price tag.
Right.
And it was like a 51-49 decision, which is very rare for me. I'm usually 95-5. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best things we've ever done. It supercharged everything. On a business side, our DTC now, our base level has probably gone up 800%. But just, it's like people are starting to connect the dots. So like we had Toys That Made Us fans there, and we had Icons on Earth fans, and Biker Mice, and RoboForce, and Star Trek. And it was just great. We met so many people. I mean, people were just coming by the booth, not buying stuff, just wanting to talk and say hello and remind us they want us to get Street Sharks, which we can't get. A very big company owns it.
Right.
But yes, that's the long answer to it. It was absolutely a phenomenal experience.
Well, that's awesome. You mentioned the toys that made us, and I promise everybody we're going to talk biker mice, but I kind of want to start there because it's so interesting about how that show touches people, right? And it's a little bit about nostalgia and a little bit about connection. You were a kid, you had these particular toys, and somebody all the way on, across the country had that same toy, and there's a connection there, you meet later in life and what have you. So I sort of feel a little bit that way about biker mice from Mars as well. A lot of people saw the cartoon, watched the cartoon, and Oni having brought it back in partnership with Nacelle last year as the miniseries. And if you're watching us on YouTube, everybody, you can see the big, connecting cover from the miniseries last year as our background. But bringing it back again with Melissa Flores, this time art by Daniel Gete. But it's so interesting because it's such a great balance of nostalgia. These are characters we're familiar with, Moto, Vinny, Throttle, Let's Rock and Ride and all that. But it's sort of for all ages because there's a little bit more mature themes. And the thing about biker mice now, and this is what I want you to speak to, it feels a little more relevant than ever, right? Rebelling against the system and what have you. So I just feel like it's the perfect time to bring it back. Are you guys feeling the same over there at Nacelle?
Well, based on the response that we've received, yes, it is definitely as good, if not a better time to be a biker mice fan and a biker mice producer than it is now. I've always been a fan. Don't get me wrong, long before I even knew it was possible to buy, I'd already seen every episode at least once, many episodes, if I'm being honest, probably 3 or 4 times, maybe more, but we don't need to talk about that, do we? But anyway, listen, man, I'm a Star Wars guy, I'm a Star Trek guy, like, I always understood where biker mice was in the pantheon of properties, but I mean it is much bigger than I realized. I thought it was this kind of off center indie weird thing I was into. You know, it was the thing in my collection. You know, I got over 5,000 pieces in my collection. Biker mice was the thing when I would have people over that I'm giving tours to. And, you know, I pretty much have one of every biker mice anything ever made, including international, et cetera, et cetera. And like no one would ever ask about biker mice. And if anybody did, it would be like, what is that? Because it was such a big collection and such a weird looking IP. But it huge. I mean, it is huge. We sell a lot of comics every day. Many of them, I would say at least 10 to 15% are international orders from Europe, South America, even Africa. And we don't have that for any of our other properties. So I am very, on many levels, very happy. I underestimated the size and passion, more importantly, the passion of the biker mice community, because it is a real community.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't realize it was so big internationally too. That's fantastic. Well, I mentioned the writer Melissa Flores, and you know she's kind of the connective tissue that's tying the miniseries, you know, obviously with the story as well, because she wrote the miniseries. Now she's back with the ongoing this year, and I've known Melissa for a long time. Was she somebody when you guys were ready to bring this back? Was she somebody that kind of popped on your radar right away? Kind of her history with Power Rangers and what have you? How did you guys decide to bring her on?
I'm gonna give you a real honest answer, Jace. I'm gonna give you two honest answers. One is the answer most people would give, and the other answer is the answer, for better or worse, I'm gonna give. So the answer number one that I should probably leave alone is yes. She was the first person that popped in our minds. There was no one else we wanted to work with. And that is a factually true statement, I can assure you. The larger context is the Nacelle Company, including myself, especially myself, we are not comic book experts.
Right.
So we have been leaning, and that's an understatement, we have been leaning on Oni's expertise. Obviously, in particular, Hunter, who has been the beautiful co-parent, unequal co-parent in his favor of the Nacelleverse comics. So Melissa was the first and only person he suggested. I read some of her work, and to be completely honest with you, it was a little bit perfunctory because I would have deferred to Oni anyway. But I loved what I read, and much more importantly, I met with Melissa. It was exactly fucking reviews, exactly what had already been working. Uh-oh.
Yeah, sorry, you froze there for a second. We heard you. I heard you say you read. Yeah, and I can edit this later in post. But we heard you say you read what Melissa had written and you loved it. So just kind of pick up from there.
Okay. Yeah, and I apologize. We just moved, and I'm literally doing possibly my first Zoom ever from our new house. So apologies.
All good, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so I read what she wrote, and it was, again, just being honest, it was borderline perfunctory because I trusted Oni, and we'd never hired a comic book writer in our lives. So, but that said, I did read what they sent, and I did love it. But more importantly, I met with her. And the best compliment I can give any person I've ever worked with is always, you know, whenever you're in a first meeting, everybody's on their best behavior. Mm-hmm. So you have a theory as to what the working experience could be like in a best case scenario. And that's what it was like with Melissa. She works her ass off. She's obviously crazy talented, but she takes notes great, and we didn't have a lot of notes, to put it mildly. And her ideas, so much of what she did it just came out of her own head. And as long as I've been doing this, it's still amazing to me. But and I don't know if we got disconnected or not before I said this, but we had already worked together on RoboForce. So she had done Nacelle vs. Zero and the RoboForce miniseries. So we knew already, we had already worked together for at least 6 months by the time she started working on Biker Mice. And the experience, like I said, could not have been better. She's great. She's funny, cool. She's creative as all hell. It's a real honor to work with her.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. Like I said, I've known her for a long time, and I agree with everything. Super talented, and the thing about it, and this is where don't sell Nacelle short, because yes, maybe the decisions are being made more on Hunter's shoulders and what have you over there at Oni, but you guys are smart enough to step back, and that's not always the case when you talk about toy companies that are trying to translate things. They don't lean on the expertise. They think they, even if they haven't done it before, they're worried about it. But I think what it comes down to Melissa's passion and your passion for these IPs, these properties, and that's meeting with the fans who are passionate about it as well, right? We're all coming together and enjoying something we love, and having some connection and sharing a moment. And I think that's something that Nacelle is very good at, and it probably speaks to what you were saying about the experience you guys had at the booth, because supercharged by the connection of fans being so passionate about these properties and toys. And isn't that kind of the whole reason you started, the toy, toys we love, and why Nacelle does what it does? It's about connection and remembering and fostering, hey, let's all have a good time.
Yeah, it's funny. If I can just add one more thing on the Melissa front, before we move on. We got a real bonus with Melissa, in that like I told you, we'd already worked with her on RoboForce, so it was a no-brainer to do Biker Mice, as they say. But I don't know if you know this or not, but Melissa's wife is a veteran, and if you know Biker Mice, which obviously I can tell you do. What do Moto, Throttle, and Vinny all have in common? They are veterans. And it's not like Missy has a wife who's a veteran and it's like just a part of her wife's past. It's like a real thing in their relationship, So that, I really feel a lot of the authenticity that is in Biker Mice, to use a $10 word in a conversation about something called Biker Mice from Mars. But that said, I think there is a lot of pathos in the comic, and that really, I think, was helped by Missy and her own experiences. But anyway, just to get to your question, yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm a huge toy collector. I tried to sell what would become the toys that made us for 7 years. And then very luckily for us, Netflix, who we were already in business with on the comedy side of the company, got into unscripted, and the rest is history. But if I'm being honest, I really had a great childhood, and it's not like I want to go back to it or in some weird ass way, but I just loved it. And, going back to something you had said earlier, about how toys that made us seem to connect with people. We have this theory, one of the most common questions we get is, how do you pick the toys that you put in the toys that made us? And it really comes from this theory we have, where I call it the Mount Rushmore of toys. And what that means is, we look for characters that, if they had a head on a theoretical Mount Rushmore of toys, that people that were not crazy fans would still know who the heads were. So, for example, my wife thinks Star Trek is this like weird religion that I'm in, right? Like, she doesn't get it. She doesn't care about it. It's like a weird thing. She'd rather not talk about it. But if she sees a picture of Spock, she knows his name. Yeah. She knows who Captain Kirk is. She knows she's not a Transformers fan. She knows who Optimus Prime is. So that's really why we do what we do. It's that this era, in particular the 80s and 90s, there was this creative it was crazy. I mean, it was absolute. I mean, you know how crazy it was. Here we are 30 years later, and almost every single, I think all but one movie this year is like a redo of stuff from the 80s and 90s, you know? So that's not a perfectly accurate statement, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But so like that's the thing. Like I just loved it. And I wish I could sit here and tell you I was some master strategist, you know, planning out. Well, first we do RoboForce, then we do that. Like it just kind of happened, and I just love it so much. We just find a way to make it work, and by the grace of God, it's worked.
Yeah, I mean, and the perfect title, because it's so true. These really are the toys that made us who we are. You and I, you know, we've never met in person, but we have this connection, you know, through these things that we love: Star Trek, Star Wars, Biker Mice, you know, RoboForce, whatever it might be, which is just amazing. And so I really appreciate your time, Brian. I want to touch on where we are with the cartoon, because Biker Mice is coming back animated as well. But just to go back and add one more thing, everybody, if you're not aware, what Brian was talking about with Missy, with Melissa Flores, the writer, and you know how much her wife being a veteran kind of plays in. Her creator own that she does in the Masterverse called Dead Lucky pulls a lot from her wife's experiences. So if you love what Melissa's doing in Biker Mice from Mars, and you love what she's done with Power Rangers, be sure you go check out the Dead Lucky as well, because that's an amazing series also. But anyway, to get back to Biker Mice, you know, I mentioned, you know, bringing it back to the small screen animation. You know, and you may not have a timeline or whatever. You know, we know these things take time or what have you. But for fans of Biker Mice who loved the cartoon back in the day, had the toys, where are we at in terms of, hey, this is going to come back to the small screen and hopefully bring in a whole new generation of fans?
Absent a massive curveball that to be honest with you, if said curveball occurred, there'd be a lot worse things going on than Biker Mice from Mars not happening. So theorizing there's no curveball like that, says the guy less than 5 years from when COVID shut the whole planet. Right. But anyway, who's counting? The timeline is it comes out late next year. I mean, we're in pre-pro right now. I would argue we're in soft production, and if as long as nothing crazy happens, it should be late 2026.
Awesome. Well, all you Biker Mice from Mars fans, I'm sure you're happy to hear that, especially as you have little ones, and you'll be able to show. Because here's the thing about, you know, it's a little bit of its time in terms of the production value, but bringing it back with kind of modern technology or what have you, it'd be that much easier to get your kids to sit down and check it out. So, Brian, again, thank you so much for joining me and for bringing Biker Mice from Mars back. You and your team, you know, you couldn't do it alone, obviously.
Understatement of the millennium.
Yeah, right. So as we are finishing up here, anything else you want to share with our audience that you would like to say to everybody out there?
I would just like to say thank you for all the support. Obviously, it's such a cliche, you know, but we could not be doing this without people supporting what we're doing. So that's the understatement. It's funny. Usually when I get asked that question, I always go out of my way to remind people it ain't just me. So I'm glad you brought that up. And if you like Biker Mice, you know, RoboForce Season 1 is streaming on Tubi now. It's free. I'm legally obligated to always say it's free when I say the word Tubi. But it is free, and it is done very well. And Biker Mice, there are 2 Biker Mice cameos in RoboForce, the series. So check it out if you dig it. And that's the first time Biker Mice have been on television in over 25 years. And people seem to like it. But other than that, yeah, I just want to say thank you. Awesome. And if people want to follow along with what Nacelle's doing, where's the best place to get news and keep up with what's going on? We're on all social media as, you know, Nacelle Company. We have a website, nacellecompany.com, that we update regularly. I'm on Instagram, pretty much almost I'm on every social, but well, that's not true. Just Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, the whole company is on it, and we're pretty easy to find, and I answer every email. Anyone who's not accusing me of ruining their childhood, I will respond to. Again, it's such a cliche, but there really is nothing I enjoy more than just talking to the community about this geek stuff. It's a very surreal honor to be where we're at right now.
Awesome. Well, I'll put a link to the website and the social media, both, at least one for both Brian and Nacelle in the show notes, everybody. So if you're having trouble finding them, you can just go there. So again, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time. Best of luck as Biker Mice ramps up in production for the animation. And yeah, we'll keep reading it monthly as it comes out from Oni, everybody.
Outstanding. Thanks, Jace.
And to everybody out there in the audience who want to express our gratitude as well, whether you're joining us on YouTube or the audio-only feed, we really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next time.